this show that Bernie puts on is great when we live under a democracy, but clearly that's not what we're moving into. So he has to change his messaging, and he's failing to do that.
Hey, this is Ashley.
Hey, it's Jordan with Status Coup on the ground.
In Philadelphia.
Flint, Michigan. East Palestine, Ohio.
Please support the leading independent media.
On the ground, covering what the corporate media covers up.
Why is it that I'm working longer hours for low wages? Why is it that I can't afford health care? Why is it that I can't afford my rent or my mortgage? Why is it that I can't afford to send my kid to college? And the Democratic Party is finally going to have to say, we stand with those people. We're prepared to take on the greed of corporate America.
As you guys can see, there's a sort of, fenced-off area where there's a bunch of, a handful of pro-Palestine protesters. During Bernie Sanders' speech, there were several pro-Palestine protesters were removed, and we are posting that on our social media, so take a look.
And you know why the American people are angry? They're angry because they're looking around them. They're seeing a huge increase in worker productivity. And yet all of that wealth is going to the people on top, not to the working. Reject what Trump and his friends want to do, and that is divide us up, get us to hate each other for whatever reason, the color of our skin, or where we were born, or our sexual orientation. If we stand together around an agenda that speaks for working people, there is nothing that can stop us.
I was a former volunteer for Bernie, both campaigns, and I'm very disappointed in his political stance on Palestine. And I don't think he has done enough to oppose the genocide. I don't think he has done enough to challenge the actual party structure of America.
Absolutely. And, for people who are watching the live stream, I don't know if you were able to see this, but we did post this on our socials. Several pro-Palestine protesters were removed from the stadium during Bernie Sanders' speech. So clearly you are not the only person who feels that way. And I did notice that as far as crowd energy goes, him talking about Palestine actually did get what I would say was probably the best response from the crowd.
But it's not just the Ukraine. I strongly oppose Biden's continued military support to the horrific Netanyahu war against the people.
So again, you are not the only person who feels that way. Would you mind going into more of your specific critiques on his stance on Palestine, or what you would like to see him doing?
Specifically, I understand that this is one of Bernie's weakest points, that he has a cultural background with the state of Israel, and he has a very long political career where he's made a lot of different statements. But this has gone far and beyond any kind of, religious affiliation or anything. This is human rights abuses. I don't consider myself to have any bigoted opinions about Jewish people, but I consider myself a Christian, and I'm incredibly offended at how Christian monuments have been desecrated in the Palestine area. This is the city of Bethlehem. Our sister city in Palestine has had historic monuments from the Bible completely destroyed, and it's a world cultural loss. It shouldn't be allowed in any democratic country, and this show that Bernie puts on is great when we live under a democracy, but clearly that's not what we're moving into. So he has to change his messaging, and he's failing to do that.
5, 6, 7, 8. Israel is a terrorist state.
Genocide is Netanyahu did not start the genocide in Palestine.
Free Palestine.
Day one.
Why are you guys here also? Were you specifically told to set up across the street over here?
So this caged off area was already prepared for any counter protesters. So when they saw our Palestine flag, they immediately put us here and said that we were protesters. But this is just free speech. This is us just advocating for changes in the Bernie Sanders as a senator. Just a few months ago, he signed a bill with AOC, $1 billion being sent towards the Iron Dome in Israel, and also supporting the Biden and Harris administration. They're asking him to please take a stand for Palestinians and take a stand against protesters who are advocating for Palestine. And instead, he says that he advocates for free speech, but you see where we are right now. We're across the street. We got kicked out. He definitely doesn't stand for free speech.
I mean, yeah, there were several protesters, pro-Palestine protesters, who were removed during the speech, which again we've posted on our socials. So if people are interested, they can go see that there. I mean, I guess, you know, being in there watching the speech, I don't know how much of it you were able to see. I assume you were out here the whole time.
Yeah, I was there for probably 20 minutes of him talking, and then that's when I actually started speaking when he discussed that the American dream is, having housing, having equal health care, and having money being in our communities. Just recently, it was revealed that Biden and Harris, their administration never told Israel to do a ceasefire. It ended up being a lie, and a general in Israel actually admitted this, that they are proud that the U.S. Never told them to do a ceasefire. So Bernie Sanders was aware of this. He has supported the administration in this as well. And his words of calling for a ceasefire was really just a fallacy.
I mean, I guess I would want to ask, have you been a Bernie supporter up until this point? What is your kind of, like, I guess, history of support for him and with his left flank of electoralism?
Yeah, so growing up, I was a supporter of Bernie Sanders. A lot of us here are. We believe that any politician can change, but to do that, it takes criticism, it takes standing up against them, it takes taking constituent comments as well. We were protesting against the Biden and Harris administration. I think a big misconception was that we were against the Democrats, that we don't want democracy, that we wanted Trump to win. But instead, we kept on demanding that if you want the blue to win, you need to make these changes, because our people are literally being massacred every single day. So with Bernie Sanders specifically, I've always been a supporter of his Medicaid for all stance on healthcare, and his stance on education for all as well, and just like lowering the cost of this, the living costs. But for him to also just be like every other administration before him, supporting Israel and everything, and not condemning that this is a genocide, continuing to deny that this is a genocide as well, it speaks volumes, and it just shows that we need to stand up right now before it's too late.
Absolutely. And what would you like to see Bernie Sanders do in the future, and the progressives that represent us?
Defund Israel, divest, stop sending our tax dollars to Israel to fund a military complex that has nothing to do with the U.S. It only increases the U.S. imperialism across the world. All walls have got to go from Mexico to Palestine. Listen to your constituents, listen to the people. The majority of America wants a ceasefire. We've been wanting a ceasefire, and the ceasefire has never been implemented because of Israel. Continuous violations of the ceasefire. We want the aid to get entered. We want your pressure on Israel. We need you to condemn the entity of Israel. We need you to stand up and stop lessening your words and denying that this is a genocide. This is much more than a massacre. This is much more than a Holocaust. This is much more than just the killing of our people. This is the erasure of an entire population.
Absolutely. Is there anything else that you would want to share with viewers of Status Coup about any of this, about, standing up for working people, not just here in the U.S., but all over the world?
Being part of the working class, I think a lot of people have this misconception when we come out to protest that we're against the left. But rather, it's not left versus right, it's up versus down. And I know Bernie Sanders agrees with this too, with his whole stance on the working class standing up. But you can't be up versus down if you're still supporting Zionism. You can't.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for talking with me. This was great. Thank you so much. Have a great one.
Primarily, I came out here because I appreciate Bernie Sanders being willing to call out the Democrats for their inaction on things and on their action on other things. And so I do support at least some of the things he came. And I was in there for much of the rally. I also came out here because I support the people of Palestine in their self-determination that they should have had decades ago. I'm happy to see that the tide is turning and there's more and more people paying attention. 10 years ago, when the boycott stuff was really starting to go, no one paid attention to it. It's taken some horrible genocidal actions for that to change, but it is changing. People here in this country are becoming aware of what their tax dollars are doing, and they're starting to demand a change to that. And any chance I can add my voice into that call to stop using our tax dollars to commit genocide and enslave people around the world, I will.
Absolutely. So you were inside, obviously, as you're saying, this movement has been growing. There were several protesters who were pro-Palestine protesters who were removed from the stadium when Bernie was speaking. I guess I would ask how you feel about Bernie's actions as far as the genocide on Gaza has gone so far. Are there things that you would criticize him on? What would you like to see him doing going forward?
I certainly would criticize him. I think he is starting to go somewhere with this stuff, but it's very late in the game for him to change his opinions on these things. And he's still focused just on Netanyahu. He's not focused on this being the actions of Israel that have continued throughout numerous administrations.
Absolutely. And again, what else would you like to see him doing? So he has funded, tried to get passed bills to remove funding for Israel. What else would you like to see Bernie Sanders doing?
I would like to see him call out more, both not just our funding of Israel, but our funding of military regimes around the world. And I would also like to see him call out Israel as a state for its actions and not trying to blame it on one person. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Are there any other thoughts you would want to share about, just being here? We're talking about the struggle of working people. That's a lot of what we hear, at these rallies and these speeches. Is there anything else you would want to share about the struggle of working people in this country as well as, working people in Palestine?
Sure. I'd just like to say that I actually like Donald Trump because for the first time in a long time, people are coming out and actually standing up and resisting to things. And he's pulling the pendulum so far that it will swing back our way. And without something pulling it that direction, we're going to be stuck in this horrible, liberal, pro-war enslavement that we've pretended is the left for entirely too long.
So, that's an interesting thing. So you would say that you appreciate that he's kind of drawn attention to these things that under the, status quo prior to Trump, we had all been kind of ignoring.
Yes, definitely. And that's been an ongoing problem. When George Bush was in power, we had tens of thousands of people marching against the war in Iraq. As soon as Obama took office, there was no one there anymore. There was a handful of us who would still go out to events. When their team was in office, the Democrats just walk away from civil rights issues, from anti-war issues, from labor rights issues. And they have been just as much a pro-corporate tool as the Republicans have for decades.
For sure. And I think it's, we've talked with a lot of people about how they've been faring and all of this. And I think that, part of why the Democrats actually lost is because they were not taking stock of how working people were feeling, that the status quo was not actually working for working people. And that is how we wound up with Trump to begin with.
Oh, definitely. The Democrats just recently at their rebuttal to the State of the Union address admitted that they are the party of Reagan. Today's Democrats are Ronald Reagan Republicans. And because they have become that, they've lost the working class.
Absolutely. Are there any other thoughts you want to share before we close this out with Status Coup viewers?
I think I got just about everything in. All I can say is that people in general need to start looking beyond the Democratic Party and find that there is an actual worldwide left wing that is not a bunch of center-right liberals. And we need to build that here in the United States and take this country back.
All right, and you're probably not going to see a lot of conversations like that on corporate media from people who are watching to hear what other working people are going through. So if you can, please do consider becoming a paid subscriber to Status Coup. You can do that at statuscoup.com/join. Again, you can do it for as little as $5 a month. It takes a lot for us to go out to, travel across Pennsylvania, following Bernie, watching his Fight the Oligarchy tour, and John and I are having a great time. We want to be able to do more of this for you guys. So if you can, do support us at statuscoup.com/join.